In this series of shorter episodes, cultivated by his ways, not captivated by his works, we draw from Miles Stanford's The Green Letters, chapter 17, titled Cultivation. Across 10 short days, we ask, will we be captivated by works or cultivated by his ways? When we hear of the plough, we are reminded of how God led his people through the wilderness. Deuteronomy 8:2 does not only tell the story of Israel, but it shows how the Father works in every generation. For 40 years, he humbled them, tested them, and revealed what was in their hearts. The wilderness became his classroom, and in the same way, the Father brings us into hidden seasons to turn the soil of our lives so that we may learn dependence and be made ready for his ways. Deuteronomy 8:2, we read this. And you shall earnestly remember all the way which the Lord your God led you these 40 years in the wilderness, to humble you and to prove you, to know what was in your minds and hearts, whether you would keep his commandments or not. The plough of the Father is a tool of cultivation. When he leads his people into the wilderness, he's desiring to dig deeply into their hearts. Israel wandered for 40 years, and Moses spent his hidden years in Midian because the Father was working deep beneath the surface. The wilderness is God's school, where humility is learned, where self is exposed, and where dependence on him is formed. Miles Stanford, in the chapter Cultivation, explains the principle this way, and I quote, each of us must be thoroughly cultivated before he can effectively cultivate others through us. Before there can be lasting ministry, there must first be a field broken open. The Father will not allow the work of self to masquerade as the work of Holy Spirit, and he plows downward into the soil of our lives so that the seed, the life of his Son, may take root. Hiddenness, delay, and testing are not wasted years, they are the furrows of cultivation. And this ploughing reaches into the recesses of self-life. The strongholds of independence are revealed. The old reliance on natural strength is stripped bare. Watchman Nee describes it this way. Not until we discover that the work done by relying on natural ability can only please men for a time, but does not impart to their spirit the actual work of the Holy Spirit, do we finally acknowledge how inadequate is our beautiful natural talent and how necessary it is that we seek for greater divine power. The plough does not flatter us. It unmasks our gifts, our ambitions, and our self-reliance, and it calls us into the sufficiency of Christ alone. Dr. Charles Solomon, in his book Handbook to Happiness, writes, and I quote, the time in the wilderness is a time of carnality, of being controlled by self or the flesh. The word carnal is often used in evangelical circles to describe a Christian who is living in open scandalous sin. This may be the case, but a devoted minister who is working his heart out for the Lord and has never experienced the cross has self in the ascendancy and is still carnal, living and ministering in his own strength. And the word carnal here refers to one who is still operating from self-life rather than the life of Christ. It is living and serving in the strength of natural ability instead of the breaking and the releasing of the Holy Spirit from within. In the wilderness, we remember that what pleases God is the true substance of his life taking root in us. God does not rush to show fruit until the soil of our lives has been broken open and prepared. His concern is not shallow appearance, but deep roots that can endure. When he delays, it is his patience at work, giving us space to release our grip on self and to learn true dependence on him. When he hides us away, it is his protection, keeping us from building on surface activity that cannot last. When he allows loss, it is his kindness ploughing us into readiness so that his life alone may grow strong within us. And how many of us have rushed ahead in our zeal, throwing ourselves into ministry with enthusiasm, only to find after exhaustion, burnout, and collapse that we left the wilderness season too soon, not yet schooled in his ways. And so the question is whether we will resist the plough or yield to it. It is easier to long for the surface signs of growth, the fruits of ministry, but the Father is determined to work more deeply. He ploughs because he loves us. He turns the soil because he is preparing us for fruit that will last. And to accept his ploughing is to accept his wisdom, to trust in his timing, and to believe that only through his breaking can the life of Christ be released.